Hello and welcome. My name is Mr. Hearn and I'm here to help you pass your TOEFL IBT. Now, before we get started with showing you the 5 tips that you need to know to get a 27 or higher on your TOEFL writing section, let me just say that if you've been struggling for some time to pass your TOEFL, it is possible for you to pass your TOEFL IBT in 30 days. You just need to know how to do it. And that's what I'm here to show you. All right, let's get into the tips that you need to know to pass the TOEFL IBT. Let's look at tip number 1. Tip number 1, you are not trying to prove how well you can write in English. Yes, that's right. You're not trying to prove how well you can write in English. In fact, you can make some mistakes in grammar and still earn a perfect score on your writing section. You just need to know the secret. And here it is. ETS is not judging you on your writing. They're judging you on how well you know the structure and rules of the test and how well you obey those rules. You see, the graders don't read your essays to find out how well you write. What they do is they have a checklist of questions that are yes or no. And all they do is they check yes or no in that checklist. And at the end, they just hit submit. They don't give you a score. So you don't have to really concentrate on how well you can write. There are things that you do need to concentrate on, and let's take a look at those. Here's tip number 2. Tip number 2, do not use a template. Oh, maybe you've been using templates and you're doing okay, and you just can't get that score that you need. Stop using templates. ETS tells you, do not use memorized responses. Using memorized responses may lower your score. What they're telling you is don't use templates, okay? What they want to know is, hey, do you know how to take the notes that are the most important parts of these passages? Do you know how they relate? And can you use the structure and rules that we require you to use? So if you're using templates or you're using like fancy vocabulary words that you've purchased, stop it. You just need to know how ETS wants you to write your essays, and then you will be able to write a high-scoring essay every time, regardless of the topic. That's it. Oh, by the way, if you're struggling with the topics, you're thinking, oh my God, I don't know about this topic, and you're having a hard time writing, they give you the information. They give it to you. In fact, let's take a look at tip number 3 and see how that works. Tip number 3. This is a test of how well you can take notes. Hey, even if your English skills are intermediate, but you can take good notes and you know the structure and rules of how ETS wants you to write your sentences, you can earn a high score on your writing essays. Really, that's what I show you in my course. But let me tell you about the secret here. When you're writing, you have to talk about the listening section. Understand that the questions ask you to summarize the listening section. You see, if you've taken the test before, you know that you're going to, in the first question, you'll have a passage to read, and then that'll go away, and then you have to listen to a passage, and then the reading passage will be available to you while you're writing. Most people write about the reading part and mention the listening part. You'll never get a passing score doing that because ETS asks you to summarize the listening part and relate it to the reading part. All right, that's a little extra tip there. So there's 6 tips in this video. Now, let's talk about those classes that I'm telling you about, that if you just do what I show you, you will. Even if your skills are intermediate or even low intermediate, you can still earn a respectable passing score on your TOEFL IBT. Let's see how. The first option gives you unlimited access to my TOEFL video course that covers all 4 sections of the TOEFL IBT. It also includes access to the TOEFL community, where I ask any of your TOEFL questions, but it also has a live Q&A. Every other Saturday, I hold a live Q&A for my students to answer any questions that you might have, And it's good for emotional support to see other students who are going through the same thing you're going through, and they're improving, and you will too. Option number 2 is more for the advanced students who don't need that emotional support. It has full access to all the videos, and it has access to the TOEFL community where you can ask me any questions. If you're not improving for some reason, just ask me what to do, and I respond within 24 hours. And yes, it is me that does the responding. There is no AI, there's no auto response. And finally, if you're just beginning with the TOEFL IBT and you're improving your English skills, if you're at a lower intermediate level, you'd want to choose the third option. It's the videos only. It really gives you the insight into the structure and rules of how the test works and gives you a chance to practice your English skills at a reasonable price. All right, if you're like most of my students, you're a pharmacist or a doctor or a dentist or a teacher or maybe an engineer, and that's how you make your money. I make my money by helping people pass the TOEFL IBT. So please, if you're having issues, subscribe to one of my TOEFL courses and let me help you pass your TOEFL in the next 30 days. All right, let's get on to tip number 4. Tip number 4. Do not try to earn a perfect score. You know that fewer than 10% of people who take the TOEFL IBT earn a perfect score in the writing section. And it really isn't necessary. What you're looking for is a respectable passing score. It's very difficult to get a perfect score, but it's much easier to get that respectable passing score once you know what's required of you and you follow the structure and the rules for how ETS wants you to respond. So don't try to write it a perfect way. Anytime we try to be perfect, we make mistakes. You cannot write at a level above your abilities, but you can write at the level of your own abilities and earn a perfect score when you know what ETS requires of you, and you just follow that pattern. All right, let's take a look at tip number 5. Tip number 5, obey the required structure and the rubric. All right, how many times have I said this since the beginning of the video? ETS graders do not care how well you can write in English, and they don't care how well you know the subject. In fact, I had one student who was a doctor. She was excellent at writing in English. She really knew her topics, and she would write 450 to 500 words about all these different things that had to do with the topic, and she would score 18 in the writing section. Why? Because she wasn't writing in the structure and rules that they wanted to. And finally, she gave up trying to impress and just did what I show her in my videos, and she scored a 29 in the writing section. She said, "Mister, I can't believe it. It was like I was writing like a 9-year-old." I'm like, "I know, right?" You don't have to be an excellent writer. You have to know what ETS graders want. And that's exactly what I show you. Now, I have uploaded a new video here that tells you how to answer question number 2 in the writing section. If you want to know how to answer question number 1, come and see me. Join my TOEFL community and let me help you pass your TOEFL IBT in the next 30 days. Oh, and by the way, if you haven't clicked that little subscribe and like button yet, what are you waiting for? It really helps me out. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you in the next video.